All right, Steve, I mean, after last night, it's a bit like I said to you earlier, it's chalk and cheese, Saturday to Tuesday, with just so different games.
Yeah, markedly different performances. I mean, probably a variety of factors for that. Saturday was boiling hot, which doesn't help. I know it's just as hot for both teams, but I think the heat had a bit of an impact on us playing how we want to play. But then we've got to be a little bit more versatile and able to adapt. Personnel, but a few key people not available on Saturday who were brought back in. But despite both of those factors, we, in my opinion, had enough quality to get a result on Saturday. And we didn't really turn up. It was probably the most lacklustre performance. Well, it was definitely the most lacklustre performance since I've been back in charge.
Yeah, I mean, have you worked out what qualities on Saturday, or was it just a case of move on, put it right?
I think if something happens once, we can put it down as a one-off. What was really important was it didn't happen twice, because you start creating a trend or a pattern, especially a negative one, then you've got to address it, and that was part of the message that we gave in the changing room before the game yesterday. And I'm pleased to say that the boys have proven that it's about consistency, and that's the kind of message. I know I've got good players, they know they're good players, we know we've got a good squad. We just got to be consistent, because there's no point turning up one game and then shooting yourself in the foot the next, you know.
Yeah, because like I say, you made a couple of tweaks, but it was also, the performance was so different. Like, we had a strong midfield, the two centre backs were great, both full backs pulled it out. We had width down the wings attacking. Trev seemed to be back to his normal smiley, happy, attack everything ball. Everything just changed.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, there was only 3 changes from the 11 who played on Saturday, so I don't necessarily think it was even personnel was a key one. I think the main thing was we were very sloppy in our positioning on Saturday. The gaps between our lines were massive. We didn't get any sort of pressure on them from their own goal kicks, and they were trying to play out, and we were letting them do it way too deep into their half and sometimes into our half. You know, back line were dropping deep at times. Midfielder then caught trying to protect a massive space, and we probably opened the door for Bearsted and give them a... That said, 1 goal was a free header from a corner, which has got nothing to do with open play, just a moment of sloppiness, whether that's down to the heat, whether that's down to tired minds, I don't know. And the first goal was an absolute freak. So despite all of that, the 2 goals we've let in haven't really got anything to do with heat or personnel. So maybe I'm talking a load of waffle.
Whereas it seemed like the tactics were different. You weren't sitting as deep. We had a midfield playing. Yeah. You were taking it to them in their half. All of that changed.
I think that's right. I mean, Holmesdale play a different way to Bearsted, quite markedly different. So that was to be taken into consideration. But even so, we wanted to be higher up the pitch. We wanted to, I'm not necessarily saying we're a pressing side, because we're not really, but we want to have bodies in positions where we can cover and shut down, and if and when we see a trigger, we can go for that.
Yeah, because that seemed to surprise them, and especially the first half, they didn't look like they were expecting us to press, and it caused them problems.
Yeah, I'm not sure they really tried to play out. Are we talking about Holmesdale?
Yeah, Holmesdale, sorry.
I'm not sure they really tried to play out too much. They were quite direct, but whether that was because we had people in good positions, if obviously they played 3 at the back as well, as opposed to Bearsted, so that creates a slightly different change. But, you know, I just think everybody was really keen to hit back after Saturday and to put in a performance that we can all be proud of as a group, and you know, the guys and girls that have come and watched us can actually be proud of, and I think definitely I saw some of the people would have been their best game of the season last night.
Yeah, definitely. Because it was like everything that the guys got wrong on Saturday, they got right in spades on Tuesday.
Yeah, there was a lot more commitment and desire to get there first, to be aggressive, to win our individual battles, to, as you say, to get higher at the pitch. I think we passed the ball around better than we did on Saturday. There were some nice little combinations and patterns at times, particularly in the first half. And we were up against a relatively direct opponent, so sometimes that can play into your hands, but other times, you can get almost into a kind of game of tennis where the ball's just going backwards and forwards, and I thought we played quite well at times, particularly in the first half last night, and I personally think we were pretty good value for the lead at half time. I don't think Gloves had to make any outstanding saves. He was very solid and he did everything he had to do well, but I can't even really.
I don't think the whole game did.
Right.
Never mind just the first half, the whole game. But it was like we were communicating as a team. On Saturday, there was sort of the usual, because we were under pressure, people would start to argue with each other a bit.
Yeah, it can happen, can't it? Yeah.
Whereas Tuesday night, it's the first time I've noticed where the whole team was communicating between each other calmly and collected.
Yeah, I think you're right. Again, it was something that we called for leadership. We basically always talking, and it's, I'm not claiming to have created these phrases because I took them off cleverer people than me, but we always talk about controlling the controllables, and concentration is one thing. We know if we're not concentrating, mistakes happen. So how can we help ourselves concentrate? Well, if you're getting good communication from your teammates, that helps. Leadership, communication. We've got experienced players. They should be communicating. They should be leading. I don't think Saturday they all did, but I think last night everybody brought the best of what they can control. People are going to make mistakes at this level. It's a given. But what I did think we did well is we supported each other. I could hear Jim and Tom. I could hear Glover. Loudest I heard Glover. You got Walder and Luke in front of them. Just that sort of spine of good leadership.
So that was what I was going to say, because the two fullbacks was probably the best game they've. Not fullbacks, two centre backs. That's Jim and Tommy's best game.
Yeah,
and I think is that the first time we've been able to play Walder and Luke in the middle together.
They had 45 minutes. The first time I've seen it live, because I believe they had 45 minutes against Glebe.
Because that made a huge difference. We suddenly had such a presence in midfield. Because Walder's noticeable, but what was really noticeable was how good Luke was. He just quietly got on and destroyed the rest of their midfield. He just won every ball after ball after ball.
I think as a partnership they're strong.
Yeah.
As a partnership, we're looking for Tom and Jim to be strong. Then you look at your partnerships between your left back and your left winger. Last night, I think we knew their right side was going to be the main threat.
Yeah.
We moved Rory across to the left, and I think him and Ed actually partnered up very well. T, with his slightly more defensive qualities, probably gives Regan on the right. There's a good partnership. Gives Regan the opportunity to say, go on in. So again, and then Billy and Trev. That's a partnership. We're trying to work.
Well. Like you say though, that's the first time I've seen Dan, like he did for Walder's second goal. The way he attacked that ball and went down the wing, I've never seen him do that before. That was brilliant.
Well, it's like we said, it's the Ginger Cafford.
Yeah.
Isn't it? He's, he's underrated as a footballer. I think if I gave him a chance to pick, he'd probably pick centre half. But he's the sort of guy that will do whatever's asked of him to the best of his ability. He was at Millwall till he was, I think, 16, and he was a right back. So it's only probably been the last 5-6 years maybe that he's been more of a centre half, and a lot of the time that's been in a free where you've got a little bit more of a licence to get on anyway. So he's definitely got it in his locker.
Yeah, because that and then Ed, I thought, like I said, their threat was down the right side, but Ed stood his ground and did really well. And don't want to talk about the referee, but how he got sent off is bizarre. And it was just like, what the guy had a great game and he did nothing wrong, and he ends up with a red card.
I know. It's Ed. I like Ed a lot. He's been patient for his chance, and he got that against Bryden Ropes. Did well. Team got a clean sheet. He then backed up with a good performance against Rusthall. And I think after being patient for a little while, he probably felt now he was going to get a run in the team. He then pulled his hamstring, so he missed out on the next game. And then, to be fair, I think JP, who came in, did well, so we kept him in for the one after that. But yeah, I just felt, he's quite mobile. Ed is. He's quite, he's a good 1v1 defender. He's just got that little turn of pace, and as I said, I knew they were going to be quite lively on that side. So he was the man for the job, and he did very well. And I agree with you. I think it's incredibly harsh that he got a straight. In fact, it's inconceivable, really, how he's got a straight red.
Well, like I said to you, he's just two guys who challenge for a 50-50 ball. Their guy changes direction and jumps into Ed, and Ed gets sent off. And the referee didn't even see it. The referee thought there's nothing had happened, and we play on. Then the lino says it's a red from miles away.
Well, it's interesting what the linesmen see and don't see. And I think about 20 seconds later, he probably didn't see something that everyone else in the ground saw when the ball was about a metre off the pitch.
Yeah.
But everyone can make a mistake. It's just the repercussions of that mistake. You know, for Ed, that's probably a 75 quid fine or whatever it is they're charging now, and probably just as bad, a 3-game ban.
Yeah.
So you know, when someone just wants to play football, there's nothing malicious. There's nothing aggressive. It's not like the guy's through on goal. He's great. The ball's going out towards the touch.
Well, like I said, the ref himself said there was nothing happening. It happened in front of him.
Well, look,
but
what can you do?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, the only thing we can do, officials from the opposition have kind of supported our thought that it's a little bit harsh, and I guess we might be able to appeal it. We'll have a look at it and we'll think about that. But I don't know. I don't want to really go on about officials, but likewise. And I don't think we ever have we? Not this season. I think
there was once we've complained about one,
okay.
But yeah,
it's not a common thing. But I just felt last night was becoming a little bit of a lottery and a bit erratic.
Yeah, it started off and got worse. I mean, the last 20 minutes was just the most bizarre performance I've seen from a ref. He just lost control of everything. I mean, I've mentioned a few things I want to do, but there was one of them where he blew up and then looked around because he realised he didn't even know why he'd blown up.
Right.
He just blew up. And he was looking for somebody to think. And luckily, I think he let them have a throw-in sort of thing.
Gotcha.
And he gave free kicks against Festus when he's running away from somebody. Luke when he does the splits away from anybody. And then that guy getting a red card was a bit harsh. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was a yellow, but a sensible ref would have said, "Oh, I'll talk to you." And it's just you get so frustrated because he could so easily have affected the game badly.
Yeah, I mean. It definitely brings in an element that you can't control. You can try shouting and screaming if that's your style. I don't personally try to do that, but it's an uncontrollable. I could do without it. It'd be handy if it was consistent and you knew where you stood a little bit better, but ultimately you just got to try and get the 3 points despite whatever's going on around you. Because you can't do nothing about it. All we said to the boys at half time, there's potentially a sin bin or a red card going to be in this game. So just, and I actually said to him, I said, look, if someone gets a red card for a tackle, unless it's stupidity, we'll just take it on the chin. But I said, what I can't have is anyone getting sin bin. Because, that's, you can all control. Well, hopefully you've got enough self-control to keep your mouth shut. And we managed to do that. The red card, I don't know. Maybe the ref will look at it himself and we'll look. I ain't gonna stand here.
Yeah.
I
think he was obviously as well. He was influenced by the screams because I remember around Holmesdale being like that where they squealed. But it seems like quite a lot. 3 or 4 years ago, the only people who did that were Corinthians.
Really?
Everybody used to ref. But even like Bristol were doing it. There's so many teams turning that this year. Holmesdale didn't last year. Bristol were doing it, didn't do it last year. Other teams and you just think the ref just responded to those shouts. He wasn't responding to the game at all.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be a referee. So all I would say is when we're standing on the touchline, there's only so much we can influence. We can influence the substitutions and we can maybe get a little bit of information to our players if we think something's wrong or we can see a problem. If shouting at the referee seems to have a positive impact, you're going to do it, aren't you? So it really comes down to the ref to deal with it. Now, in fairness to him, he did come and book one of their technical team for saying something. I've got to be honest, I don't know what it was and I don't know what. So I guess he's dealt with it on an occasion, but it's just a shame. Like we've come off the back of a 2-0 away win, a clean sheet, really positive performance after a dire one on Saturday. and we probably spent more time talking about the officials,
Yeah.
which is not really what I want to come and do.
We'll actually get back talking about something positive. The other thing I is on Tuesday night you got your substitutions spot on. I mean, Festos came and did exactly what you wanted. You had Mo left back, and then Zach comes on just to keep it calm towards the end. I thought you got those spot on there.
I think we had a good balance on the bench because Festos can play anywhere behind the striker in any of those three shirts or as the striker. Mo equally can play either wing or full back. Zach, as you know, can do the holding midfield role. He can also cover right back. He'd done that in pre-season before I arrived. Sid was on the bench in case we had any issues with the centre halves, which I thought I was gonna when Tom nearly didn't get through the first half. I think it was
coming off at the half time talking to him. I thought he's not going to come out in the second half. He's not coming out.
And had that happened, I wouldn't have had any hesitation putting Sidgy in. He's been really patient, and as it happens, Tom sort of soldiered on.
Yeah.
And then Cam as cover for Trev. So I think we had everything covered on the bench, and that really helps. You got sort of square pegs in square holes, and whether I got it right or not, the boys. It didn't make us any weaker, did it?
No.
The boys that come on just continued for us.
Yeah, I think that's what we said. It's probably, this isn't against any other players I want to, but that's probably the strongest starting and strongest bench combinations we've had so far this season, where you've managed, like say, getting Walder and Luke playing together in the middle for the first time, I think, virtually.
I think, with the exception of George Bentley, who we obviously know is out for probably another 3 to 4 weeks, but we're really fortunate we've got Glover covering that position. I really hope I'm not doing anyone an injustice, but I think Harry Hudson was the only player who was actually unavailable for the squad last night. So it did put some big decisions on me, and that does weigh quite heavy on you sometimes because everyone here.
Yeah, because you had some good players not in that lineup.
Yeah, some good players not even in the squad, and everyone wants to play football. Everyone's got an opinion on who should be in the squad, and what I can't be is someone who's trying to keep everyone happy and who's getting blown around by fans' opinions, officials' opinions, other players' opinions. I've got to do what I think's right, and there was obviously quite a few players that have been key for us not involved at all last night. But I think those of you that were there and watched it will have to say that the 16 I did go with have sort of justified.
Yeah, but I think that hopefully the guys who weren't can do like you were mentioning Ed before, just wait and be patient because their times will come, because you're going to get injuries and form drops, and those players will just hopefully see that and be patient for a few weeks and see what happens.
I mean, the ideal is, you've got 20 players all chomping at the bit, all hungry, all pushing each other, competition for every shirt, and everyone's just happy to be part of it, and those that aren't in the squad take it really well. But look, let's be honest, this isn't a Premier League team. These are boys. Football's their hobby. Football's their passion.
Yeah.
They want to be playing, and the ones that aren't involved will be desperately disappointed because they'll know the vast majority of them they could probably go and get a game quite easily at this level. So, that's something that I've got to monitor. But ultimately, again, I feel like justified based on the performance and the result.
Yeah, I think that leads us on to Snodland, because it's almost like, how do you change that team to play against Snodland, because there's not one single person who you could say doesn't deserve their start.
I think, it could be, I hope it won't be, but it could be that injury comes into it.
Yeah.
Ed took a big hit, ironically, in getting sent off.
What, when he completely wiped out their place standing still?
Yeah. So there was a big impact there. So, as we said, Tom looked in a bit of a spot of bother at half time. We need to get a feedback on how he actually is. And then there are a few others, don't want to go into too much detail, but there are a few others that probably are going to be a bit touch and go. But Snodland play tonight, so we've got one more day recovery than them, and it's the same for everyone, really.
It'll be interesting what their lineup is tonight, because everybody thinking, they've got about 8 or 9 of our former players there. But if it's like Saturday, nobody started, and the only 3 on the bench were Robbie, Cheeky, and one other who I can't remember off the top of my head now. So none of those players. So that changes the atmosphere straight away. That it's not mates against former mates, as it were.
Yeah.
It's a completely different lineup, because that's going to be interesting to see, because that'll affect the game, I think.
I would have thought, as much as mates against mates, it will probably be more a point of a lot of the boys that are involved with Snodland that have got an affinity and a connection to Tunbridge Wells will want to come back and put in a positive.
That's what I mean. It's going to raise the game.
Yeah, for you
it's
guys,
going to be more competitive.
Yeah.
Without them,
Yeah.
I don't think they come with that attitude.
Well, we'll see. I think I'm not sure if Gef's on holiday or look. It's not even any point picking anyone out. Henry, I know he hasn't played for Tunbridge Wells, but he's a Tunbridge Wells boy.
Yeah.
There's obviously Pringy last year's captain, so there's some little subplots all over the place, but ultimately it's a game against the side that are 100% going to fancy themselves to be in the playoffs. It's just going to be a toughie for us.
I think it's going to be our toughest game so far, other than the Glebe game.
Yeah.
I think that's probably going to be our toughest game. So it's Tuesday night is just what we needed, really.
I think Tuesday night is where we should be if we have got any aspirations of pushing those playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth. But likewise, Saturday, I am looking at that as opportunity dropped, if I'm honest. So, but it's happening.
Because that's what you remember is, and again, this sounds like I'm being really arrogant about this, but let's be honest, Bearsted and Holmesdale, neither of them were that great, and you wouldn't expect them to be challenging. Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
we should be getting results against those teams or something.
Tony,
if we're going to be successful.
Tony and AC at Holmesdale are, don't forget, early part, well over halfway into the season last year, they were about 20 points clear. Granted, we're very from Belvedere, but they're very, very experienced, very good managers. And I think Holmesdale had a lot of threat. I think we were just able to deal with it and nullify it. What I don't want is our biggest threat being our own mentality and our own level of performance. If someone turns up, blows us away, because there's going to be sides based on their resources who should be able to do that, then we'll have to hold our hands up and say fair play. But if we turn up and underperform or don't turn up at all, that's what isn't going to be acceptable.
Yeah. I mean, playing like last night against some of the better teams, we might not win, but boy, it would be hard to beat us. Do you know what I mean?
Who knows?
And we could cause, well, in that case, we could easily quite cause a problem that's not expected. And I'm hoping that's what's going to happen with Snodland, because they must be looking at that, fancying themselves.
Do you reckon? Yeah. I honestly don't know.
With all the money they've spent, they must fancy themselves to be pushing for, at least for the playoffs, if not further up.
I mean, as long as they spent their money wisely, you'd expect them to have good players, and good players should thrive on pressure, and they should thrive on occasion. So, if that's the case, they should rightly be backing themselves. But we've got good players as well. The Culverdens, we tend to try and turn up and put on a bit of a performance there.
Because if we played them after Saturday, I'll be honest with you, I'll be sat there thinking, we're going to get stuffed, Steve, aren't we? Because we would. If
I don't know
we
about,
play like that, we'll get stuffed. But after Tuesday, the way we played on Tuesday, we turn up, and actually I quite fancy our chances in an odd way.
Well,
that's a matter of a couple of days, and one performance can change it so much.
Well, you changed your tack there, because you started off by saying if we played them after Bearsted, I wouldn't. Do you know what? I was expecting a reaction after Bearsted, so if it had been Scotland, I'd have been quite up for it. What I do agree with, if we played like we did at Bearsted, we'd have no chance. But that ain't us. The real key for us is to get some consistency in our game, whether we'll always perform at the Holmesdale level, or whether what we won't do is keep performing at the Bearsted level. We've got to find a consistent level.
Yeah.
You can't be up and down. This is something that haunted us a little bit last season. I think we were the definition of inconsistent when you look at the final standings in the league. And I looked at it for the first time before last night, and I think we played 6, 1-2, drawn 2, lost 2, 4-14 against 14.
Well, we lost our first 4, didn't we?
Last year. But even this year, we're still the definition of inconsistency, and the challenge is we've got to be consistent.
Yeah, and I think that the important thing is also it's not inconsistent in terms of the footballing ability. We've got quite a good set of players. It's just their heads, and if you can get their heads sorted, they can give anyone a game.
I think
because look, we play decent football when we get it down and go for it.
Yeah, maybe let's not underestimate the lack of pre-season with me and how to implement what I want to do. What impact that's had? Like other sides that I've been with, those 4 to 6 weeks that you get in the summer where you're training 2-3 times a week, that's when you really bed in a lot of the ideas of how you want to play. Now we haven't had that opportunity, so we are to a point playing catch up. In fact, we're big time playing catch up.
And you're also trying to change the style as well.
Yeah, and to be fair, we held our hands up at Bearsted as a management team. We gave them some information which wasn't, in hindsight, very good, and it hampered our performance for about the first half hour. We corrected it to a point, but we've got to be consistent, give the boys the best opportunity. They're starting to learn how we want to plan. It's like any unit, whether you're in a football team or whether you're in a working environment. If you don't know what you're supposed to be doing in every scenario,
I think the proof of that again on Tuesday now was the way that Trevor's so more involved in the game and support. He wasn't looking isolated, which he has been.
That's probably probably the fact that we got it a bit better behind him and around him enabled him, and also put a little bit of pressure on him to step up and play his part. And I would say it was his best all-round performance of the season.
No, definitely.
So that's encouraging.
And he also looked to be really enjoying it.
Yeah, I think
which was brilliant.
Yeah, but again, I think everyone's happier when they know their roles, because indecision just breeds uncertainty. If you're uncertain about things, you can't be that confident. When you're not that confident, you're probably more prone to make mistakes. When you start making mistakes, your head drops and you get in this vicious downward spiral.
I think you're right. It's that thing about their roles. You could see what people were doing or what they had to do clearly last night, and that's not always been the case.
No, maybe not, to be honest. If I'm truthful, it's been a weird one, really, because we come in 1 week before the season started. On top of that, Harps and Joff had caretaker managed the Eastbourne Town game, which was completely different to how the team had been playing prior to that. I've then made a kind of informed decision, well, I don't want to break away from that too much because the boys need a bit of stability. Is it what I would have done with a blank canvas? Well, it doesn't really matter. The point is that's what we've had to roll with. So I'm kind of, if I'm using that as my base point, I'm thinking, okay, well, how do we make the side look from here? What can we do? How can we improve it? How can we tweak it? And so it is a little bit of I don't want to say learning by mistakes, because hopefully we won't make too many, but
it's learning as you go along.
Yeah, it's learning as we go along. I mean, a lot of things are pretty obvious and pretty generic, but I think we're getting there. Just little things like set pieces and kickoffs and throw-ins, all these details that when people get it and they know, everything's just that little bit easier.
It was like Dan's play and how Trev put that goal away. That's exactly how we want to play. It's the first time you've seen that work perfectly. Really new. It was good to see people coming into their own at last.
Yeah. I mean, there's still plenty of development for the side. In terms of what we could be. Like we have now clearly, as a management team with Harps, Joff, Ad, we've sat down and we've mapped out. This is how we want to look, with the ball, without the ball. This is what we need from players in terms of the individual skills that we think they require to fit the profile of what we want, and then within that, these are the little patterns we're looking for. So we're developing it, and it starts to become a bit. When you know where you're going, if you've got a map, if you've got sat nav, it's a lot easier to get there than if you're making up as you go along, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's also the squad you've built as well. Seems to me it's the strongest squad we've had for 2 or 3 years in terms of the squad. Okay, the starting lineup might have been matched last season and the season before, but the squad and the bench we got behind that and how they integrate and you can come in and come out. I mean, I can't remember when we've had 2 or 3 players sitting there who aren't in the squad thinking I should be in the squad. I can't remember that.
Well,
it's showing that you've built a squad, you've got the tactics right to come there. So it's just a case of developing it on, just hopefully keep their heads level, because that's the only thing that's gone wrong.
I mean, I'm fortunate there was a good, strong group of players that I've inherited. and I've added 3 or 4 now, and probably if we'd gone through the normal pre-season process, a few of those may have chosen to leave a bit earlier because it would have become apparent what direction we were going. But I guess maybe we've got a bigger squad because of not having that clarity of to be fair to some of the players, we've probably pulled the handbrake up on them a little bit. They were playing a certain formation, a certain way, and Luke obviously had certain players that he held in high esteem, and then a new guy comes in, and for some of them they must be thinking, well, this is a bit different, and some are able to adapt, some it's going to be a bit of a struggle.
But I think
it's nothing personal,
you can see the development though, because we were very direct earlier on, whereas when you came in, and that's changing as you go on. We were direct in last night, but we played football again.
Yeah,
and you can see you starting to develop that mix now.
Yeah. We just look. The more times we hurt the opposition's goal, the more chance we've got to score a goal. That's a very basic thing to say. Ideally, you want to get there in a controlled manner. So maybe if to start off with, we were just putting the ball over the top. Well, now we're thinking, well, that's a bit of a roll of the dice. Can we get there in a little bit more of a structured way? We're still playing to our strengths, but we're just trying to get there in a little bit more of a refined way.
Because it's also bringing out players as a surprise. Yes, you've got the big names we mentioned. Like mentioned, nobody would have seen Ed Satter being such a great player as he's coming in and done. The way Festos was out, but he's come in and influenced all times. Mo comes along, we never heard, he's putting a leg in. But Zach, he's come in and stood his time and done well when he's needed to come in. All these other players that you wouldn't have thought we'd be all talking about, we're talking about them as well.
Good. I mean, Ed and Mo, got to take my hat off to Adam and also Lee Roots. They're both guys that were with Holmesdale ironically last year, and Adam obviously was, so that was that connection. Zach is, Zach basically knew that if he wanted to kick on from his game time last season, he had to commit and get his head down, and he has. So he deserves to be playing more. I think it's important that the boys from the 23s can see people like JP, people like Brad, people like Zach, people like Cam, who have come through that I hate that word pathway, but it is what it is, that can see there's been a progression, because that then keeps them interested. And some of the boys have been playing for the reserves. We had 3 or 4. Sid has played for the reserves a few times, Ed's played, Jez has played, Brad's played. So I think it's really important if we're going to move the whole club forward, and I know Jamie's passionate about this, that we're unlikely to ever have a team of 11 that have come through the 23s. But I think as long as they can see 3 or 4 in and around the squad, I've got another couple of lads, Ned and Jack, both train with us regular. So we're already, the goalkeepers train with us, Nathan Carter and Tommy Skill, they're in with us most training sessions. So I think that's important for the club. Yeah,
it just feels like it's on Saturday night. It would have been, but actually,
glad you didn't get hold of me.
Yeah,
and I didn't duck that, by the way. Just in case anyone was thinking.
No, that was me. But if we'd have sat there, none of that other stuff that's been going on would have felt as important. And then just because of the performance last night, you're then able to reflect on all of the others going around, and actually, it's not as bad as it seemed on Saturday night. Yes, it was a horrible performance, and boy, did everybody deserve stick. But when you see such a positive of last night, it changes everybody's view again. You go into Stansted feeling, I wish it was tomorrow sort of thing.
I just, like, from my personal perspective...
Snodland.
Yes, Snodland, yeah. From my personal perspective, never get too high, never get too low.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time, the people that run the club, Scott and the board, are going to entrust me to do this. I'm trying to look as far ahead as I can at where I ultimately want the team to be, and the squad to be, and the club to be, and the 23s to be, and I'll just keep chipping away. Saturday was a bad one, but I'm going to go down beat your head, even though it's right on my doorstep. At the end of the day, we're looking bigger picture than that, and I just think we've got to be realistic. We're playing a bit of catch up. We're taking small steps.
Well, we're still 6th, isn't it?
Okay, but who cares?
After
after 7 games, who cares?
After 7 games, we're not playing great yet. It's all yet to start, and we're still 7th.
Yeah. Yeah, I just hope I still feel like we're setting the foundations in place, and hopefully that will lead us to success. I've got to be confident in that. If ultimately I've got it wrong, and someone will soon tell me to get me coat. But up until that time, I'm just going to keep on trying to lay foundations, and I think luckily you saw a good version of us last night, and we want to make sure you see that more often than the other Jekyll and Hyde version of us.
Hopefully that's what we see Saturday, isn't it?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Should
Brilliant.
be good.
Cheers.
Cheers.